Hello. Today is April 16, 2024. This is SIG Node weekly meeting, and today the meeting will be mostly about CAP planning, and we have many more topics, so we will hope to get at least some of them, but there is no promise. Peter, take it away.
Alrighty, thank you. I'm turning us to the SIG Node planning document. I did a little, Bernal and I did a little bit of combing before this meeting, just sort of poking through and guessing whether or not we try to make progress on the KEPs, but I think that it makes sense to sort of go through them and just sort of declare here whether or not we intend on working on them. Also, we tried to rank priority and guess the stage that we were pushing for, but and then I sorted them roughly based on those parameters. So, but if anyone has any sort of notes on that, feel free to mention them. I think just starting off, let's, we ranked this probably the highest. I'm guessing this is likely one of the biggest items that all of the Kubernetes community has, but DRA, I don't think that we need to talk too much about this, we're going to try to make some progress on it. Is there anything that anyone wanted to mention for this specifically, or we're targeting alpha and we're likely going to push forward on it, my guess?
Yeah, I'll just say, Peter, quickly, like we just had the first work group device management meeting, which is kind of like what DRA's evolved into. And that went pretty well, a lot of people there. And so definitely we'll stay in alpha in 131. Definitely there'll be progress. And so, I mean, the goals and to do there is probably, I think that's from 130, that looks like, but yeah, we have tons of work we're doing there. It's going, it's moving along.
Sweet, thank you. Cool. Next up, sidecar containers during pod termination. We missed this in 120 or 130 rather, so it looks like some of the work is there. I miss.
Yeah, we probably
here,
will increase scope a little bit. We discovered many issues with behavior of pods during the termination, so we probably will increase scope a little bit, but yeah, we plan to work on that. This change requires a lot of refactoring, and yeah, I'm really hope that we can get to that. But if there will be another refactoring with in-place update, there may be a little bit of conflicting situation here. So let's see how it goes and how soon we will get PRs out.
Cool.
But good thing about it, we working on many tests covering many scenarios of pod termination.
Awesome. Cool. And we have approvers. And does anyone want to sign up to be a reviewer? If not, I could maybe take a look. All right, I'll take it.
I think Derek offered to approve some of these. So Derek, could you take this one?
For the approvers? Yeah, I was just talking to Bernal in the background. I'm
Yeah.
happy to pick up a few of these.
Cool. I'll put you down here as well. And the approver team can sort of load balance as needed. Okay. Cuba gRPC API endpoint. This one slipped since 129. Did we want to make progress on this? I think we marked it as maybe, but I actually forget us setting it as high priority, but we did for some reason. So
this is the high priority. This came from the network team, the SIG Net. And yeah, we'll continue to serve as the high priority to support our sibling SIG. Yeah.
Cool. So I will then maybe mark this as yes, assuming that the author sort of picks it up. Do we know the author? Are they here? I don't recognize his username.
All from the SIG Net. Yeah, I think I can reach out I can through the some way reach out them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm.
I'll write down that here. Cool. And we got all these things as well. Okay. Memory swap. Kevin or Harshal, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah. I mean, basically there's one call out around swap and tempfs. So for secrets, or if they're mounted to a temporary file system, they can actually swap to disk. That is a big no-no. And Jordan called it out as something we need to really address before any potential GA of swap. It is actually kind of complicated. We found a kernel support and a newer kernel feature where you can say in a tempfs mount to not let that stuff go to swap memory, but it is a pretty new kernel feature. And then we also keep running into problems where people are having are deploying kubelet on nodes with swap enabled without this feature. So then it comes the question of what are we trying to support. I think Peter was leading. We were hoping to bring this probably next week or something like that to kind of figure out the path forward on that one item. So that's probably where I think some of the swap work will go. Is that what you want to? Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for the update. Yeah, so yeah, Ryan Harshal, Kevin, and I collaborated on a document the other day that I'll probably try to post sometime this week that discusses this and sort of goes through some of our options on how to handle it. But yeah, I agree that this is probably going to be the main focus for swap in this release, is trying to figure out how to navigate this situation. So yeah, and we have folks looking at it. So we do intend on doing that. And I, just to call out, I think we'll probably continue in beta because there will continue to have this little, this additional piece. So it isn't really, I wouldn't necessarily call it as GA yet.
Yeah, I think we should also try to get more feedback there, because that should be one of the criteria for taking it to GA, and to eke out any other edge cases or scenarios we may have not thought about.
Can we include UG on this one? Because I know the GKE, we do have some customer using swap. So maybe UG can help us to collect those production feedback and then help on this open source project.
Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Perfect.
Sorry, UG,
yeah, so
your name.
No, I'm already helping review. Yeah, I know there were some questions about adding this to the describe node. That was one of the agenda. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Sweet. Yeah, I think we'll probably follow up and chat a little bit more about it. Probably, I would also guess next week. So, looking forward to working more with that. Next up, limit on parallel image pull. Ruin or Paco?
Yeah, I think this one. Yeah, we're just adding a new E2E test, and Sync Paco is working on that, just trying to deflate the test. I think we're pretty close. Yeah, I'll talk with Paco. I think we can try to get this done in 131.
Cool. Sweet. Sounds good. We got all our set of people to look at it. Next up, Memory Manager GA. Francesco added this note, which I'm not seeing yet.
Yeah, so I can quickly comment. So basically, there are a few issues that are still open and which needs to be addressed. Issues as in potential bugs, which needs to be addressed. And once that is done, basically, we have all the measured gaps. There is a couple of tests which needs to be added, but that should be it. Unfortunately, during the 130 life cycle, we had some reprioritization to be done. So, long story short, yes, we will work on 31 cycle, and we really want to wrap it up. So, we'll try harder.
Awesome. Would you qualify the bug fixes as? It sounds like you would qualify them as a blocker for GA. Is there a world in which you make progress on that but don't make it to GA? Or
the problem with those bugs is that we are struggling to complete the triage. So maybe there could be simple implementation bugs, or there could be something more serious that prevents GA to happen. So once we have clarity on that and possibly fixes, we will know how to make progress and wrap it up.
Cool. Yeah, and I think, and are they bugs that are like fatal to the initial design of the memory manager, or is it like, are they bugs that sort of toe the line of bug and feature?
Okay, very quickly, from what I can remember so far, there are a couple of bugs which ultimately are depends on the design of the memory chip, which are surprising to the users. So if you dig deep enough, okay, this is actually how it is designed to behave, but okay, plus minor real implementation issues. Okay, but overall, so in that area, we could possibly make some improvements, but I cannot recall the design flow yet, even though this surprising behavior may be something to be invest a bit more before to finish the GA graduation.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so sounds like, yeah, maybe before we enhancement freezes finishes, I don't know if you will have the bandwidth in the next month or so to, or 2 months, I forget actually when freezes, but if you have time to do that triaging so we can have a picture before enhancement freeze, so we have at least know like sort of what the scope of the changes would be if we would need to have that.
That's a very fair ask, so I will totally prioritize that and see if we can make it happen. So we'll totally try to do that. Yes.
Thank you. Should I put you as the owner here?
Yeah, I can temporarily set me as owner up, and yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So those are the things that Renal and I initially set as high priority. So we're moving kind of into the medium now. But if anyone feels like any of these things should have a higher priority, please, as we go through them, let us know. I think they were based on the 130 priority, so things might have shifted around a little bit. Kubernetes Server TLS certificate rotation.
Yeah, I did not really make any progress on this on 1.30. Even I'm going on leave, so I won't in 1.31, but I don't really. I took it to SIG off, and generally it's kind of different. Like a lot of the feedback was some of the comments on the metrics for GA were not very useful and they need to be revisited. I don't really have much context to this feature in general. And it's kind of, it's been GA, it's been in beta for a really long time. And most of the people, like I think there's a few people in SIG off that remember it, but a lot of it was trying to get more domain knowledge of this, especially for GAing. I think it's going to be needed.
Mm-hmm.
Are promoting the metrics to GA a blocker for promoting the feature to GA?
I think Sergey someone called it out as like we were trying to promote the feature to GA and then the metrics were in alpha. So then I thought there was a suggestion that we should promote those to GA, but I don't know.
I was under the impression that aren't like a lot of the kubelets metrics GA, or sorry, alpha.
So, well, sorry, let's back up. The main request was there needs to be the retrospective KEP needs to be updated and actually represent the current KEP process. And a lot of the request was we need more design and documentation of this feature to even get the KEP created.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found, I tried to take that to 1.30 to SIG Auth. I mean, there was some feedback, and I think generally it was there needs to be more details on the design of this feature, which I did not get a chance to do because I don't really have the context into this feature.
Yeah, there are certain design decisions that needs to be documented, especially about error handling, like how we behave in different error situations. And regarding metrics, metrics are also needed. I don't know how many of them in SIG Node we have as alpha, but I believe we GA many of them. So my suggestion also was to GA metrics as well as part of this KEP.
Yeah, and so I think I had a metrics KEP for promoting from alpha to beta, which that was when some of the discussions around the usefulness of the metrics came about. So that's at least where this is at. It's looking for an owner for 1.31. Ideally, it'd be nice to have a more buy-in from SIG Auth about reviews. I did not get any strong, like, I remember they said did not have capacity in 1.30 to really review it. So that's at least where we are on that one.
All right. Does anyone who's currently on this call want to volunteer or volunteer someone else to take care of it? Or owner? If not, we can sort of just leave it in this liminal space, and if someone wants to pick it up for 131 and deems it to be high priority, or give it the priority that it is designated, then we can just have someone take it. I don't want that. Cool. Let's leave it there, and if anyone wants it, they can do it. Rolling back up. The order was a little bit wrong because I got the stage wrong. PSI.
I changed the priority to low and progress also to maybe, because this is dependent on RunC 1.2, and that has a lot of blockers since December, and I don't see any resolution yet.
So we have an RC now, but like as some folks may be aware, right, there's an ongoing issue with Go 122 breaking RunC. So till we have a solution for that, there won't be a release of final RunC 120, and we don't have a clear timeline yet. So the question is, like, the import that we do into Kubernetes isn't affected, but will we actually pick up the RC or not? Probably not. So we'll have to wait.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. So I have changed the priority.
Is there a active conversation happening about RC yet, or are we just sort of wondering and haven't
We
submitted
should
anything?
open an issue about the RC and then just have a talk with Dims and Jordan and other and see if there's any chance of picking up the RC, or we want to wait for 120.
Does anyone here want to take that?
I can follow up on that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Cool. So reprioritize that. I'll move it down in a moment. In place of EPA, Yishin or Wing Yang, are either of you here?
I had a question because I see in this, I mean, when it says needs Windows support and when it says questionable whether it will move from beta, what exactly this means? I don't understand.
I think if I remember correctly, I think Tim and Dikshita, you all are like forming a new work group to push this forward, right?
Yeah.
So we'll
Yes.
be looking, we'll be looking as input from that work group on what issues need to be fixed and whether it's ready to move to beta. So.
Can I make a comment on this one? I really don't want Windows container support to become the blocker for this feature. If other, I'm okay, but the Windows container, even from day one, right? So we are not, we initially, we don't have all the feature priority. We need to follow up with the SIG Windows on this one. But I don't want Windows container per se as the blocker here.
Yeah,
Don, would you like to take that?
Alpha review, which I did, there was never an
Yeah,
expectation.
I can follow up with Windows team. Yes. Derek, sorry.
I was just saying, I did the alpha review for this feature, right? And there was never an expectation for Windows support. To my knowledge, even back in the beginning of this being discussed. So.
Yeah, I agree. So that's why last time when people using Windows container not support as the blocker surprised me. And so I want to document this clearly. This feature, no matter which stage, I don't think about Windows should be blocker here. Yeah.
We should make sure there's at least validation in place to prevent someone from trying to use this on Windows in that case.
Yeah.
That's yeah, good point. And can we add the team occur as the reviewer too? Yeah. Yeah.
But I think in the tests there are some blocks of code where they check if it is Windows, so they include it. Yes.
Cool. Sweet. So we have a couple of action items, but also a work group. So I'm sure more will come up, but we're definitely making progress on this. It's currently listed here as alpha. It sounds like, well, I guess we can, whatever comes out of the work group, it can hit whatever target that it needs to. So just keep us posted on the enhancement. Cool. Right.
So perhaps you wanted to say questionable whether it will move to beta, correct? Not from beta, or
right. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Ensure secret pulled images. I'm gonna guess Paco isn't here, but I can talk a little bit about this. Okay. Yeah. So I made a recommendation at 1:30 to switch the design to not have qubit checkpointing, and then it came up in review of the PR that actually we need that. And so we have now clear direction on the design. It sounds like Paco is still interested in working on this, and if not, I can potentially also pick it up. But it looks like now that we have a clear design and clarity on the features that we need to have for it, I think we can make progress and finally get this somewhere. Did you have anything else to add, Manuel?
No, I agree. I think we are closer to agreement on the design now, so I'm hopeful we can get it merged.
Cool. And the work should be relatively straightforward because we've done a lot of the pre-work already. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Cool. QoS classes. Marcus in the room?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, I really hope that we could make some progress on this one. So I guess the main thing for now would be to review it. The PR has changed quite a bit from the initial submission and the scope, and really a thorough review of it would be good. I don't know if kind of are any major review comments open or unanswered at the moment. So it's kind of.
I feel like, Marcus, do we have the capacity to take on DRA as well as this one at the same time? Is my main concern really, without like carefully considering the design and implications.
I guess that's
the only thing. Like, if you're not doing DRA, we have all the bandwidth to focus on the minutiae of QoS.
Yeah, I guess it's mostly about the kind of reviewer bandwidth on this one. So I'm kind of fully committed to work on this, and we'll be working on what. Yeah, kind of the SIG Node reviewer bandwidth, probably.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective.
Yeah, I think also the Don makes a good point on this document. Like, getting API review will also be a bottleneck. So I wonder if has this been brought to SIG Arch, or has a conversation happened with API reviewers about this yet?
Yes.
Or like recently?
Yeah. Well, not recently. Well, Tim Hocken has been kind of the assigned API reviewer for this CAP, and he has provided quite a bit of comments, but I guess he's very constrained on the kind of review bandwidth as well.
Yeah, I mean,
but it also feels like a sort of a deadlock situation that SIG Node was waiting for the API review and the vice versa. The API reviews would like to get some kind of sign from SIG Node about the CAP, so it's kind of feels also deadlocked, sort of.
Totally. So I guess, like, given Bernal's sort of mentioning of the anxiety about the reviewer or approver bandwidth, do the folks who are in the room now want to I see Bernal and Tim are on the list of people to take a look at this. Does that are the two of you still down to act as approver and try to balance this with your other things you have to work on? I
can make a pass at it, but I think so. We should also check with Tim Hocken. I think it's Tim Hocken there, if he has the bandwidth on the API side. So I feel like this is similar to DRA, where it's going to touch a lot of parts of Kubernetes. So the node parts are relatively simple. Like, okay, once you have something, you just need to do things on the node, right? But how is it going to work with scheduling? How are we going to ensure that my pod YAML is portable across different Kubernetes installations? How will auto scaling work? Similar to the DRA question. So those are the kind of questions that we'll need to come up with answers for. And that's where my worry is okay, we're going to spend all the brain power on DRA this year. So do we also want to get that in, or should we kind of phase this in after DRA? I don't know. If more folks across SIGs feel that this one is a priority, then I'm definitely willing to spend cycles from SIG Node perspective on this. Derek, Don, any thoughts?
Yeah, I personally kind of echo your comment on let's see what use cases DRA fleshes out as the project unfurls. And then maybe my other thought is, as the QA class resource CAP or design come up in any of the new work groups, whether that's, I forget what we're calling them now, surveying and others, where it'd be necessary to support the use case. Because my last recollection on it was not clear that would be the case.
I don't think it's come up. Well, survey hasn't started yet, but I think from a device management, there has been talk of this and general resource management. You know, it's kind of similar problems you're solving, but this hasn't, you know, we kind of deferred these kind of questions to later in that working group.
Yeah, like my memory, and it could be out of date a little bit here, was like this was tracking a way to distinguish like elastic resource types or things like even, I don't know, power or maybe some other things with my memory on it. But I guess what I was just wondering is to my understanding, there hasn't been like a large or as vocally clear user community that says what this unlocks versus the other things that I know the community itself needs to focus on and unlock. So I think that's the tension. And given that, like Mernal, I'd rather focus my own brain power on unlocking the DRA scenarios in the near term.
I think about at the API level, this is more critical because at the node level, we basically, once we define those policy and the API, node levels enforce those things, right? So I do think others have the relationship in many about our new work group we start, no matter serving or batch, and also the dynamic resource allocator, all those kind of things actually eventually have the inputs to help us how to define this at the API level. So that's why I personally prefer pump this one for this release, and then we have the better idea about the nomadic serving and also the dynamic resource allocator. So we can more focus on those things. Come back this one. This is my personal opinion.
Cool. Do we want to sort of set priority here differently then, or I mean, does this seem accurate, like leaving it maybe in like medium here, or you know, what do folks think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take another quick pass at the latest state of the enhancement after the call, but make sure my own memory was the same. And but I struggle to see how we make implementation progress on this, if not at best just design clarity in this time period. I don't think we're all aligned yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anyone have anything else they wanted to talk about with this one?
I'll just say that I have been talking a little bit with Marcus about some tangible use cases that I have in mind with this feature, but I think it probably makes sense. Like my main ideas were around, like, I think some of us have discussed, like, honestly a more smarter version of swap, and then kind of focusing on different QoS levels. And then there is a NRI plugin that kind of fits a lot of these cases, which does tie into QoS. There are a couple other features that people are bringing up that actually tie to this feature. Like one was around some control over the OOM.group, and then another one was around control of OM scores. So there are some issues that we are kind of tying to this feature as could potentially solve this, but I think maybe the KEP needs to be kind of updated to kind of reflect some more like tangible like issues that people are seeing. I don't know if we would get a lot of feedback from serving or dynamic resources on this one, because this I think seems to focus more on like the CPU memory QoS stuff that's already set in kubelet. So that's at least just it can maybe, well, I won't be taking a look, but that was at least my suggestion with the KEP, is maybe try to focus a bit more on some more use cases that make a case for why this could be useful outside of I think it reads a little too general. That's my comment.
So I think like in the past we discussed like block IO and Intel RDT, right? Which were like clear cases. Okay, you have different tiers. But when we go to kills, then we are becoming much more specific here. It's no longer classes. You take very specific actions, right? Versus when you have silver, gold, platinum, each platform can define what those values are and what kind of QoS they're getting. So how does fit into there? Like, does an silver on one platform kill me while it just changes a nice value on another?
Yeah.
So
I think the macro point from the earlier comment I 100% agree with, which was kind of also what I was trying to drive at, which was that the KEP as documented reads very general, but the actual recommended places in which it should be used is less clear. And so like if there was a particular use case that even one of the working groups that we were describing was talking about why this would be critical and unblock them, it would be clear for us to all rally around and maybe get something more specific in the KEP. But yeah, I'll take another look, but that kind of gels with past comments. But I guess we got a lot to go through. We don't need to design either right now. So.
Cool. So a number of to-dos on this one, and maybe we follow up on the KEP proposal, and maybe have another follow-up conversation here if we need to have something more synchronous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I could take an action point to have a like short recap of the current state of the KEP also in the SIG Node meeting, like next week or the week after that.
Yeah, and just associate any changes with a particular workload or need that would be better served. And so I don't know if it was batch or serving or anything like that is the best use case, but the use cases are harder right now as a reader in the KEP to understand why this should get priority versus other things.
Yeah, I think there have been more and more kind of use cases for this KEP over the months and years, like coming here and there. Yeah, but I'll take an action. I should probably then write them out more vocally in the KEP, or precisely in the KEP. But as you said, it's kind of the KEP is currently more of a generic API change to be a possible enabler for all of these use cases. So the KEP itself doesn't propose to implement any actual kind of QoS mechanism as itself. It's more of a generic API change in that sense. So, and yeah, maybe that's also adding a lot to the confusion and doubts on the KEP.
Alrighty. Anything else here? All right. Let's move on and chat about that more concretely maybe next week. Next up, TUC1 deprecation, Harshal. This is a new one.
Yeah, we got some good feedback on that enhancement and enhancement proposal, and we also got some good feedback yesterday on the runs issue. I think that Peter you created on the similar lines of deprecating C group even, and the general theme of the feedback that we are getting is people are still heavily using SIG V1. There are cloud providers which are still on SIG V1. And there are distributions, long-term support distributions, which are going to be on SIG V1 for quite some time. So it is not, we are not getting support from the feedback that we should actually remove the SIG V1 support. However, our intention, the primary intention of doing this KEP was to essentially inform users that the community is moving away from SIG V1. So be it kernel or systemd or other components. So in that spirit, I think we should still do the deprecation notice, but we don't have to remove everything. And even if it means just printing a message in log and maybe emitting an event when kubelet starts that, hey, this is SIG V1, it is advisable to move to SIG V2 for these reasons, and maybe give a link, something on those lines, it will help people to at least start thinking about it. So, but if you want to do just that, do we need a KEP at all? It's just a couple of lines of warning and an event that will emit, and it can sit there as long as the kubelet starts on SIG V1. So that's where I wanted to get the feeling, what SIG Node thinks about this one now. That do we really need a KEP, or do we really need to pursue removal of this functionality?
I still think about we need a KEP, and the KEP cover what you just share here, and also some. So basically, it's more call out. I agree with you. There are people might not we might not get enough of the feedback. We might not get people's attention, but the KEP actually help us to get them call out more, right? So we want the people still stuck at the SIG V1 and proactively testing on the SIG V2. So at least I think we should do that. Otherwise, there's no thinking about at least 1 year deprecation notice.
Yeah, that makes sense, Sergey. Thanks.
Yeah, I really like to change it to remove SIG V1 support, because this is intentional. This is our intention, and we need to be clear that we're going this way. And it also will help us to understand what needs to be cleaned up. Like all the tests needs to be changed to default to SIG V2, and then test SIG V1 as addition. We need to make sure that all the bugs are fixed. Like right now, there is a bug with metrics calculated incorrectly on SIG V2, and we don't pay enough attention to that because we have too many SIG V1 customers. But if we have a KEP clearly stating that SIG V1 is going away, we will need to reprioritize them with higher priority. So I think we need to state intention very clearly here.
So if I'm reading you correctly, you are still advocating that we should actually remove it, maybe in some time in future, but we are still sticking with the removal plan, not just deprecating it.
Yeah, removal goes to alpha means that we're deprecating it, and then when it's GA, then it's fully removed.
Yeah, get it. Yeah, just the sentiment I got from the community was like that they were expecting for us to actually remove somewhere like LTS support for those distribution, which is like 2029 or something, which is far out in future. But so do you see we actually removing it by this year end, or that graduation can take longer?
I think we need a KEP. We need to have a way of defining a very extended timeline. I think at some point in time, V1 support will be removed from Kubernetes, whether or not that's in 5 years, 3 years, or 1 year. That's what can be discussed on a KEP. I think the clear message, though, and maybe this is the spirit, Don, that you were looking to get out there, was as a part of that KEP, there should be like, what's our communication plan? Does that mean we publish blogs? Does that mean we alert the community, we transition our community testing to this model versus another model? And then just make it clear that feature development is done on V1. Like, we are V1 feature complete. And, if you want more than that, you need to get on the V2 train. That's what I would see that KEP describing. But I am very empathetic that we all have many users who are on V1 and will take time to transition to V2. And I don't think it's good for the community to be unnecessarily aggressive on that. So, but
Sorry for cutting. I think the biggest issue with merging the KEP will be putting down a specific date on it. I think deprecation notice, everything else, the plan will sound great, but I think folks will wildly disagree on when we actually remove it. And are we okay merging something that says we'll decide on removal date later on?
That's why I like the
I would
feature
rather
complete
put the
concept.
date there. Oh, sorry. I would rather put the date because I'm so open to people push us back. Right. So otherwise you put something like don't put the date. The people say, oh, okay, you take forever to really remove. I personally think about we need to give longer time. But I can also say that like the circuit just shared want to remove as soon as possible, right? So that's I would rather put it there. And let people raise their voice loudly. So then we can get the feedback. A lot of time when we not clearly say what we want, maybe it's not what we agree, but there's the plan, then let's just say out loudly. Let people give us the signal and they agree or not agree. How about that? I would rather feel loudly.
Yeah. This is I mean, I'm all for removing the support down personally, but I see that this KEP has like attracted a lot of attention and comments already. So
That's a much safer statement.
You didn't understand me. I personally think about we cannot remove for short period of time. But the problem is if we don't put the date there, people just ignore such things. I know already people won't ignore, people already are crazy, but some people won't fight back and to loudly to us. So this is why we want to get the customer and the users feedback clearly. So that's why it's just trying to put some date there.
I think the danger on that, Don, and just like, at least for users that I know I have to engage with, I don't know if you engage with, there's a very long tail of applications in the world, and not all of them will have the energy or motivation to change, even if we say something. But it seems like the safest comment that we could make to merge a KEP on is Kubernetes SIG v1 support is feature complete. No new capability, no new resource management capability. If you needed serving enhancements or batch enhancements, but strongly message to the world that we orient to v2, but taking away something, particularly if people are running applications that may be, older than our own careers on Kubernetes today, that's a little hard to.
So Derek, so you and I align. It sounds like we want to call out the deprecation, but we are not decided a remover. I personally agree on that one, and we just deprecate and give some like announcement and clearly to indicate we are not add a new feature and support to the SIG group v1. This is what when we first announced CRI and Docker share, right? Deprecation. Let's do the same thing. It take us for years to finally deprecate. I think this maybe is the same, even worse than. Honestly, I think this is the more complicated and more worse than the CRI. Suppose we should have, because people really are those kind of things, and also they buy the license, right? So that the operating system already have the 5 years license, and they are on those kind of things. They don't plan, and also just like what you say, some like traditional, some old workload, and they already get used to, they optimize with the current production environment. It's hard for them to move out. I totally see that.
What do we gain by getting rid of it after? I mean, I think it makes sense to say we're not going to add anything to it, other than.
And that's my question. Why eliminate something?
Yeah.
Versus just say that it's feature complete.
Right. We're not enhancing it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Nobody has an answer to that, huh?
I think an advantage, like generally, is code complexity. Reduction. It's not terribly complex to switch between the two, but I think that and then also being able to assume that the newer features that we want, PSI one day and all of these things are available rather than having to toggle based on things, similar to our swap support is being contingent on Secret v2. So it would just simplify our, to go the code scope as maintainers, I would say is the biggest sort of advantage.
Right.
Plus,
So-
I mean, the kernel is feature complete and not frozen, but like, they're not adding any big changes to CQC1 also. And I know our internal kernel engineers have pushed back on, even some bug fixes. I mean, they've caved eventually, but because we need the CQC1, because, historically the majority of our users have been on it. But, as time goes on, it becomes a harder sort of push for us to convince them to make any sort of meaningful changes in CQC1. And I think that pattern, I'm guessing other people have hit a similar pattern.
Yes.
So.
That creates a natural though friction for the users who are stuck on it, right? Like it's like, well, you're not getting the new features, you're not getting, and eventually, if you're only getting security patches, you might. I guess my point is as kind of higher up the stack, like I don't see why we would. For our convenience, it's a lot harder. It's a lot more pain for all those users than it is for us, honestly. Like the pain for changing all of those things and changing their applications is extraordinary.
Yeah, I agree. One question, since I just want to follow up, Peter, you brought that. So any feature what we discussed on the C group related, for example, swap or not C group related, or whatever. So all those kind of things, do we need support the C group v1 in the 1.31?
No, so it's not necessarily that because we can always just say like this new feature, we're not going to add support to Secret v1. Like that's fine. I think that my point is that it makes the logic in the kubelet simpler if we don't have to think about whether or not the node is on v1 or not, and that's sort of like the sort of savings that we get.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. My question is just follow up. I just say, should we, as the community, make decision now? And all the features not GA yet, and we are working on. Do we from now on to decide it is compatible with SIG v1, or we only consider SIG v2? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Are you asking specifically about swap or just like features generally?
Feature generally, what we have discussed today. Every single feature we have effort now.
I mean, I think
memory is GA, right? Memory manager GA. That will still be on dependent on v1.
So memory QoS was supposed to be the first v2 specific feature years ago that we explored. I think I know we're running at the end of the call here, but like a simple way to overcome maybe some of the concerns, Peter, that you're raising is just that we have a very clear question in a template for SIG Node that says, does this feature interface with v1 versus v2 C groups in the same way that like PR approver asks particular questions, and that at least make sure we have the process in place to ask the question, and then make it easier then as the feature gates get added to get the code in place when you start up the kubelet that says, are you on a v1 node or not, and is this feature matrix supported? But I kind of really do agree with John on the sense that like without naming applications on the call here, like there are certain applications that I just think are used widely in the world that are very hard to advocate for why something should be taken away from them versus just been made aware that something's feature complete. And I think the time frame on this would be very long, and it's just unfortunate reality.
So
yeah,
we agree that this will be. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say I have one sort of additional picture painting. Yesterday, I'm at Seattle for OSCON, and there was a container plumbing conference, and some runtime folks talked about this very thing, and where discussing, well, we began discussing a conversation of like announcing a date in the future after which none of the runtimes would support C Group V1. We didn't reach consensus. We just like that came up with an idea. I can post the link to that. Like their conversation is happening in the runtime spec level, and then we'll eventually sort of bubble up. That is an independent conversation to the Kubernetes one, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there as another sort of thing that people are thinking about. Sorry, Harshal, go on.
No problem. So I was just saying we need to have a consensus here. Like, so I see two thought processes. One is to remove it, and other one is to mark it feature complete and let it be there. Before we go ahead and modify the KEP, we need to arrive at a consensus that what do we do with it when we graduate it? Do we remove it or should we mark it as feature complete?
I personally don't think that we can remove it for some time. Again, I just want to repeat again and again. But I desperately want to not continue put effort on that one. And so that we need to call out as soon as possible. Give people stuck on that one to take action. And they can give us feedback. And we can even some feedback maybe to kernel folks, we can help to pass along. But we need to do that. So that's why KEP is important here. How to communicate also is important.
Yeah, definitely. So I will steer the KEP in the direction of feature complete, because right now it takes a tone of feature getting removed. Thanks.
Cool. We're at time for today, but we can continue this conversation online and then probably also continue down with the KEP planning next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Peter.